Hi YouTube, it's Fidget for Fitness. Today is January 11th, 2012, and I'm going to make braised short ribs in a Dutch oven. I haven't made short ribs forever, and they had short ribs on sale, but they're the boneless ones. I frankly like the ones with the bone, so when you cook them long and they fall off the bone, they're just delish, and I think the bone gives the braised short ribs a lot of flavor. But since they were on sale, I just bought, I think I've got about 1.5 pounds here. Maybe close to 2 pounds. Yeah, about 2 pounds. And I'm just excited to try and make this, see how it comes out without being on the bone. I've never made it without being on the bone. But I'm just going to use rosemary, thyme, bacon, onion, shallot, carrots, garlic, beef broth, red wine, salt, pepper. Pretty much just typical short rib recipe. So I'm gonna get it started and show you what it looks like as we go through the process. So I'm just gonna start this recipe by cutting up some bacon. I usually use apple smoked bacon, but didn't feel like going out of my way to that butcher, so I just have some regular bacon. Just have a hunk of it, I don't even know how much I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, looks like 8 pieces. Might be too much for this small amount of meat actually, so just gonna cut it up. I'm gonna cook it in a pan. Actually, I'm gonna make this in a Dutch oven, so I'm gonna just probably cook it in the Dutch oven so it flavors that dish. And you don't want the pieces too big, and you don't want this flavor to be too dominating. So I think I'm gonna stick with just, giving it a rough cut. I haven't made this in so long, years. So I'm going to stick with my, this is recipes from Gourmet, but I don't remember, Gourmet magazine. So I'm going to stick this in a Dutch oven, get it going, and I'll show you what it looks like. So these are the beautiful short ribs. I'm using a different cutting board and knife that I used from the bacon. Actually, the same cutting board with the bacon, but got rid of the knife. Put the meat on here, but I'm using a different cutting board and knife for the vegetables. So basically you want to just liberally salt and pepper this. You definitely want to season your meat. Salt and pepper on both sides. Make sure it's seasoned really well. And then you're just going to dredge it in flour. Then I'm going to put it in the same pan that the bacon is cooking in right now. But I want the bacon to be somewhat crispy. Not, dead crispy, but pretty on the crispy side. So, edible. And you can tell where the bone was. Whoa, that's too much. You can tell where the bone was attached. So, again, salt, pepper. That's pretty good. And I'm just going to dredge it as I just spilled the salt everywhere. Really simple. You could use your fingers. I have tongs, but I don't think I'm going to need them. And that's pretty much it. Then I'm going to put a little olive oil in the pan. Save the bacon grease as well. And let these just brown a little bit in the pan. So those are the short ribs that have been dredged in flour. Then I'm going to show you the bacon and start chopping the vegetables. So here's the bacon just cooking up in the Dutch oven. Smells amazing. Just going to let that go until it's crispy and just start the vegetables. So I have 4 carrots, 3 celery stalks, a whole Vidalia onion. So I'm going to put this, actually I think I have a smaller Vidalia onion here. Well, it appears smaller, but I'm not sure. Try this Vidalia onion. I'm just going to put it in the food processor. Basically going to chop it. And I'm going to do the same with the celery and carrots. So I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. The food processor is kind of noisy every time I put it on video. So I'll show you what it looks like when they are all done and chopped. So this is about the size I like to chop my onion. I don't like it too minced because then it gets very watery, and I drain the water, if any, anyway. And then I'm going to do the carrots, celery, chop them in the food processor, and then I'm going to mince the garlic and the shallot by hand. I'm going to make put 2 shallots in here and probably maybe 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. So this bacon is almost perfectly crispy. This is almost exactly the way I want it. And I'm going to remove it from the pan. Keep those juices in there, so I'm just going to spoon it out with a slotted spoon, and then make the short ribs in there. Actually, I'm going to reserve some of this oil because I think some of the grease from the bacon is too much, and then just put some olive oil in there. So I reserved about this much bacon grease. I think that's just a little too much. I might add it later if I need it. I'm just going to put a little olive oil in. So I do want the bacon grease taste, I just don't want it to dominate. Let that heat up. And then I'm going to put the short ribs in. Okay, now I'm just going to put the short ribs in. I gotta tell you, I don't think the bottom of my Dutch oven is big enough, so I may have to do this in batches. I'm gonna have to do this in batches. So I'm just gonna cook them for about a minute or so on each side, get them brown. And then I am going to put the vegetables in. And I decided to chop some of the carrots just bigger, so I chopped all the celery very fine, onion a little bit not too fine, and then I'm going to chop chunks of carrots versus just very small chopped carrots, which I did chop 1 carrot small, but the rest I'm going to make a little more hunkier, more like a stew. So I just turned them over, and I'm going to hit the sides as well, probably about a minute on all sides. I had to solicit a little help in the kitchen because these are going to take a couple of hours, and I'm racing against the clock at 4:30 at night to get dinner on the table. So this is the last side browning, and then I'm going to add the last 3 short ribs, and then I'm going to add the celery, carrots, onion, and shallot, and a little bit of garlic. I said 5 cloves earlier, but I think I'm only going to use about 2. And that onion was too big. I'm going to use about half that onion, maybe 3/4. So I'm going to take the last 3 out, and into this pan, I'm going to add a little more olive oil, a little bit more of that bacon grease. Let that heat up, and then the vegetables are going to go in there. You could just pull up all that nice little crunchies off the bottom, give it flavor from both the meat and the bacon. So I am going to add to this now, this has 1 chopped carrot, 4 chopped stalks of celery, half of that onion I showed you, 2 cloves of garlic, and 2 cloves of shallots. So I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to add the whole carrots. So these are the whole carrots. Just going to let that cook. I forgot I'm going to just add a little bit of thyme and rosemary to this. Just a little bit, and then I'm probably going to just add a little at the end. And some sprigs before I put it in. Actually, a couple of sprigs before I put it in the oven. So I'm going to let this cook for, I don't know, about 3 minutes or so, just till it gets soft. The carrots are a little bit bigger, so they might take a little longer, but they will definitely get soft in the oven and make this very sweet. So this has been cooking about 3 minutes, I believe, just winging it. I'm going to add some red wine. I have 2 cups. That's pretty typical for this type of recipe. And I'm using a Merlot. You can use any kind of dry wine. I tend to use what I have in the house. Oh my gosh, it smells phenomenal the minute that hit the pan. So I'm gonna let this cook for a couple of minutes, and then the meat and bacon and everything's going to go in. And I have a couple of rosemary sprigs and thyme. Stick those in, let that flavor. So that's been cooking for a couple of minutes. Now I'm going to add 2 cups of beef broth. I use the low sodium. I'm going to put some of this bacon back in. Probably most of it, but not, that's enough. I eyeball it. My dog hears something. Then I'm going to put the ribs in. And the problem with this is that I don't think I have enough room, but I'm trying to get them all in there. And as I put them all in, I am just going to let them cook a minute or so more, and then I'm going to put them right in the oven. And that's where all the beautifulness happens. It's going to cook for a couple hours in there, 2.5 hours. And that's pretty much the recipe. I'm gonna add a little pepper. A little bit of salt. One more stir for good measure. Take them off the fire. Cover the Dutch oven. Put them right in a 350 oven. So here's the finished product. I took it out 15 minutes early, and the only reason why I did that is it's 7:23 p.m. and I want to eat. So I'm going to serve this over mashed potatoes. And just to be on the safe side, I made some backup white potatoes, just a couple of small little ones, just quick in the microwave, because I am using some mashed potatoes that I had left over that I froze. And I actually have never frozen mashed potatoes, and I want to see how they come out. So this looks delicious. I can't wait to bite into it, and I'll show you it on the plate. So here's the finished product after 2.5 hours. So I let the meat sit a little bit after I took it out of the oven, about 15 minutes, maybe 10. And I'm gonna bite into it and see how it tastes. So that's the meal, and it looks delish. I tasted the sauce, I know that's good. And even the mashed potatoes taste good. So now it's just a matter of seeing how tender the meat is. We'll give you an update after the first bite. So I just had my first bite, and it's absolutely delicious. So making it with the bone on or with the bone off, it's just as tender and delicious. And what do you think?
It's good. It's actually delicious. Very tender. Good job.
Great. So that's the meal. Please try this recipe. I'll post it as soon as I have a moment.